Hello and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are transporting you straight to the heart of Manchester. It is January 18th, 2026.
Yes.
The rain has stopped, the floodlights are powering down, but the noise is still ringing in ears all across the city.
Oh, for sure.
If you've glanced at a screen, a newspaper, or even spoken to another human being in the last 24 hours, you know the headline. Manchester United 2, Manchester City 0.
And honestly,
Yeah.
that scoreline is the biggest lie of the weekend. It flatters City. It really, really does.
It's just wild to say that about a Pep Guardiola team, isn't it?
It is?
Usually, if you beat City, you've survived a siege. You've parked the bus, the keeper's made 15 saves, and you've, nicked one on the break.
Absolutely a smash and grab.
But we're here to unpack what feels like a collective hallucination for United fans. Just 7 days ago, the vibe was, well, it was a funeral.
It was grim. Ruben Amorim had been sacked, the season was written off, and the forums were just spiraling into toxicity.
The mood music was essentially relegation form talk.
Exactly. And then enter Michael Carrick.
Yeah.
3 days of training, 72 hours.
That's it.
And suddenly, United produced a performance that many sources, and look, not just United fan channels, but neutral journalists too, are calling the best performance since the glory days.
It is a fascinating case study because we aren't just looking at a football match today.
No, we're looking at psychology, we're looking at the art of tactical simplification, and we're looking at some absolutely brutal data that suggests this was a historic beating.
We have got a massive stack of sources to get through today. We've combed through the post-match press conferences from Carrick and Pep Guardiola.
Yep.
We've got the deep dive tactical data on XG and player positioning, and my personal favorite, we've got the raw, unfiltered fan reactions from the subreddit.
Which are absolute gold dust today.
Oh, they are.
The contrast between Realables and RMCFC is it's stark. It's arguably the biggest mood swing I've seen in Premier League online discourse in about 5 years.
It really is. So, here's the mission for this deep dive. We need to answer the big question floating around the internet.
Okay.
Was this just a new manager bounce? That sugar rush of adrenaline when the boss gets sacked?
Right.
Or did Michael Carrick just expose in 90 minutes that the previous regime was getting it systematically wrong?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because the narrative shift has been violent. We went from these players aren't good enough for the Premier League
to these players were being handcuffed by the system.
in the space of one afternoon. It's incredible.
Let's start with the atmosphere and the psychology, because before a ball was even kicked, something felt different. You found some sources discussing the Carrick effect on the player's mental state.
Yeah, this is crucial context. You often hear about the new manager bounce, right?
It's almost a cliche in football.
It is. The strict teacher leaves, the substitute teacher comes in, the pressure lifts, and everyone runs a bit harder to impress. But looking at the reports from the training ground this week, this was deeper than just effort.
Deeper how?
Michael Carrick mentioned in his post-match comments that the players were unbelievably desperate to do well.
Desperate is a strong word, isn't it?
It's a very strong word.
Usually managers say motivated or ready. Desperate implies a kind of frantic energy, almost like they were cornered animals.
Exactly. And Carrick actually said he was worried about that.
Yeah.
He said he feared they might be too desperate.
Oh, okay.
He thought they might lose their heads, fly into tackles, get a red card in the first 10 minutes, or just run themselves into the ground by halftime.
So he had to manage that energy.
He had to actively work to calm them down, to channel that desperation into discipline.
That is a great detail. It suggests they weren't just playing for points, they were playing to prove a point. They took the criticism personally.
Spot on. And that emotional release leads directly into the tactical shift. We have to talk about the gaslighting narrative that has popped up in the fan forums.
Oh, I saw this everywhere.
It was a recurring theme in the source material.
It's a heavy term, gaslighting. Explain that for the listener who might not be scrolling the forums all day. Why do fans feel gaslighted by the previous manager?
Well, think about the Ruben Amorim era. The system was incredibly complex. We're talking inverted wingbacks, box midfields, false nines, dropping into false positions to create overloads that
never seemed to materialize.
Right. And when it didn't work, which was often, the implied message from the management was always, the system is genius, but the players don't have the football IQ to execute it.
Right. So the fans start believing, okay, our squad must be terrible. These players just can't learn. We need to sell everyone.
Precisely. You start to doubt your own eyes. Then Carrick walks in. He strips it all back. He plays a 4-2-3-1.
Simple.
He puts players in their natural habitats, and suddenly They look world-class. That's why fans feel gaslighted. They realize the squad wasn't the problem. The instructions were.
And the absolute poster boy for this shift is Bruno Fernandes.
We have to talk about Bruno. This was the biggest tactical gripe fans had for months.
Under Amorim, seeing him play as a number 6 or deep in that pivot, it was painful to watch.
Fans were calling it criminal in the threads.
Yeah.
And you know what? Statistically, they're right.
Oh, so?
You take your best chaos agent, the guy who sees passes nobody else sees, the guy who thrives on high-risk, high-reward football, and you ask him to defend transitions 40 yards from the opponent's goal.
It's like buying a Ferrari and using it to plow a field.
It's just a misuse of resources. Exactly.
So Carrick puts him back at number 10, the classic creator role, right behind the striker. And what happened?
Magic happened. The data here is staggering. Bruno created over 6 clear-cut chances in this game.
6. Against Manchester City.
Against a Pep Guardiola City side. That is a Premier League record for a single player against Pep, and he got an assist.
Wow.
But more importantly, he looked happy. He was pressing from the front, triggering the press, taking risks. Under Amorim, every time he lost the ball trying a risky pass, he looked terrified of the bench because he was breaking the structure.
Yesterday, he played with freedom.
Total freedom.
It sounds so simple when you break it down. Put your best creator in the creating spot. Who knew?
Who'd have thought?
But let's zoom out to the team identity. This phrase, United DNA, gets thrown around a lot.
Oh, all the time.
Usually by pundits trying to fill airtime or ex-players reminiscing about the 90s. But yesterday, looking at the heat maps and the passing networks, it actually meant something tangible.
It did. United DNA, in a tactical sense, not a marketing sense, refers to pace, directness, and risk-taking in transition. It's about verticality.
Verticality. Let's unpack that term for a second. We mean getting the ball forward fast rather than side to side?
Exactly. Look at the possession stats. City actually had about 62% of the ball.
Right.
If you just looked at possession on teletext, you might think City dominated. But they did absolutely nothing with it. It was sterile possession.
A horseshoe of sadness.
Passing in a horseshoe shape around the defense. Exactly. United, meanwhile, were electric. Every time they won the ball, the first thought was forward.
I saw a comparison on social media to the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer era. People saying it felt like the best of the Ole counterattacks, specifically that 2019 win at the Etihad.
It is a fair comparison, but sources noted a key difference.
Okay.
Under Ole, games often turned into basketball matches, end-to-end, chaos, you score, we score. It was fun, but it was loose.
But very loose.
Here, Carrick's United had a rigid defensive shape. They were compact, they suffered without the ball comfortably, and then bang. Spring the trap.
Yeah.
It was controlled chaos.
And that trap was lethal. We mentioned earlier that the scoreline flatters City. Let's dig into the battering section of our notes.
Yes.
Because 2-0 sounds like a comfortable professional win, but the underlying numbers suggest a massacre.
If we look at the XG expected goals, it tells a horror story for Manchester City.
Right.
Now, for anyone not obsessed with analytics, let's briefly explain XG. It basically measures the quality of a chance based on thousands of historical shots. A penalty is 0.79 XG, meaning 79% of the time it's a goal.
And a shot from the halfway line is maybe 0.01?
Exactly. So higher is better. It means you're creating chances that should be goals.
Much better.
Well.
So what were the numbers in this game?
In this game, depending on the model you use, Understat, Opta, etc., United generated between 3.81 and 4.45 XG.
Wow, nearly 4.5 expected goals? That is massive. And City,
The paltry 0.47.
0.47. For a team with Haaland, Foden, Silva, that is unheard of.
It is historic. According to the XG philosophy, which we have in our source pile, this was Man City's biggest ever XG defeat under Pep Guardiola. Ever, in any competition. They barely registered a meaningful shot on target.
That is scathing. I mean, we're used to City maybe losing 1-0 on a counterattack, but usually they've battered the door down for 90 minutes to create nothing. That is a systemic failure.
And let's not forget the almost moments.
Yeah.
United had the ball in the net 5 times.
5 times. I remember the offside calls.
3 disallowed goals. And sure, offside is offside. The linesman flag went up.
But the margins were razor thin.
So thin. It shows that the defensive line of City was being shredded repeatedly. They just couldn't cope with the runners in behind. Then you have the woodwork. Harry Maguire hit the bar with a header.
And Ahmad hit the post with that curler.
Exactly.
So we are legitimately talking about a potential 5-0 or 6-0 demolition here.
Without Gianluigi Donnarumma in goal for City, it is 6-0. He made 3 world-class saves.
He was their man of the match, easily.
He and Kuzanov were the only City players who escaped criticism in the post-match ratings. Everyone else, zeros and ones. It was a battering in everything but the final score.
It's incredible to think about. Just days after Amorim leaves, the team produces that kind of attacking output. But you mentioned Maguire hitting the bar, and that segues us perfectly to the other end of the pitch.
Oh, yeah.
Because as much as the attack was sparkling, the defense was nasty, in a good way.
Oh, the pundit wars. This was the narrative arc of the weekend.
Set the scene for us, because this started way before kickoff. This wasn't just post-match analysis. This was pre-match provocation.
Right. So midweek, you have the Class of '92 podcast. Paul Scholes, Nicky Butt, Gary Neville. Legends of the club, obviously.
Well, of course.
And they're discussing the upcoming derby. And the topic of Lisandro Martinez comes up.
And let me guess. They talked about his height. Again.
Again. It is the lazy narrative that just will not die. It doesn't matter how many clean sheets he keeps. If they lose, it's because he's short.
Right.
But Nicky Butt took it a step further this time. He made a comment that went viral instantly.
Oh, I saw this one.
He said, Erling Haaland would, and I quote, pick Martinez up and run with him like a dad running with a kid.
Like a dad running with a kid. I mean, ouch.
Ouch.
That is vivid imagery.
It is.
It's funny in a pub banter sort of way, but it's also wildly disrespectful to a World Cup winner.
It was incredibly dismissive. It treats Martinez like a mascot rather than an elite center back. And judging by the performance, I think Martinez heard it.
You think so?
Because what we saw on the pitch was a masterclass in aggression, timing, and leverage. Martinez the Butcher absolutely pocketed Haaland.
He didn't just win the ball, he dominated the physical battle. There's a great thread on the forum analyzing how Martinez uses his low center of gravity.
Yeah, he gets underneath the taller players and unbalances them.
And Haaland hates that.
Hates it. He's a giant. He wants a defender to lean on him so he can use his strength to roll them. Martinez doesn't give him that leverage. He nips in front or he bumps him just as the ball arrives, knocking him off stride.
And the reaction on social media was euphoric.
And Martinez actually addressed the pundits in his post-match interview.
I saw this. He didn't hold back, did he?
No. He said people can say whatever with that classic Martinez smirk. And then he invited Scholes to come to his house.
I love that. Come to my house. I assume to see the World Cup medal, or maybe just to have a chat about the art of defending.
Who knows?
But it wasn't just Martinez, was it? The man next to him had quite a day, too. Harry Maguire.
The redemption arc that never ends. Maguire was described as a warrior in almost every match report we pulled.
He finished the game with bloody knees, didn't he?
Bloody knees, head strapped up. It was proper old-school center-half stuff, Terry Butcher vibes.
Proper.
But there was a moment in the second half that fans were obsessing over. Maguire physically handling Bernardo Silva.
The pick up and throw.
That's how they described it. Silva tried to shield the ball near the corner flag, and Maguire just moved him, like he was moving a piece of furniture to vacuum underneath it.
Just a statement.
It was a statement. You are not passing. You are not keeping this ball.
It is funny because for so long the defense has looked fragile, soft-centered.
So soft.
But you put Maguire and Martinez back together, a partnership that actually worked well under Ten Hag in the early days, and suddenly there's a backbone.
That is the key word, backbone. Under Amorim, the constant changing of systems, back three, back four, hybrid roles, made the defense look hesitant.
And hesitation kills defenders.
It does. If you have to think for a split second, am I the inverted wingback or the third center half? Well, the striker is already gone. Yesterday, their jobs were simple. You mark him, you head the ball, and they look like a brick wall.
Even Diogo Dalot, who can be a bit chaotic, had his moment.
A mixed bag for Dalot.
Yeah.
He made a goal line clearance that was absolutely vital when the score was 1-0. If that goes in, it's a different game.
100%.
But we have to be objective. He also put in a tackle that Pep Guardiola was furious about.
Pep mentioned that in the presser, right?
He did. Pep admitted United were the better team, but he felt Dalot should have been sent off for a high boot.
Really?
He said it would have changed the game dynamics. And looking at the replay, Dalot was lucky. It was an orange card, borderline red.
Sometimes you need that luck in a derby, though. You need the rub of the green.
Absolutely. But let's move into the engine room. Because if the defense was the backbone, the midfield was the lungs. And there's one man we have to salute. Uncle Case.
Casemiro. Written off by so many. His legs have gone. He's too old. He's turning like a cruise ship. I'll admit, I've thought it myself watching him recently.
We all have.
And yet yesterday.
Colossal. The sources say he played like he was 25 again. He was everywhere, breaking up play, starting attacks, winning headers in his own box, and then appearing in the opponent's box.
How do you explain that? You can't just physically get younger in a week. Did Carrick find a time machine at Carrington?
It comes back to the system. It always does. Casemiro was an elite reader of the game, but he lacks recovery pace. We know this.
We do.
If you play a wide-open, chaotic system, like Amorim sometimes did, or Ten Hag at the end, you are asking Casemiro to cover 50 yards of open grass. He can't do that anymore. He gets exposed.
Right. It's like asking a tank to drag race a Formula One car. It's not built for it.
Exactly. But Carrick played a compact structure. The distances between the defenders and the midfielders were short, maybe 10 or 15 yards.
So he didn't have to sprint.
You just had to step left, step right, intercept. He was protected by the structure.
And the description of him at the end of the game?
Oh, beautiful scenes. Standing at the Stretford end, arms wide, soaking up the noise.
The fans love him for that.
They do. Fans are posting that they want him to get a 1-year extension, even on his crazy wages, just because that experience is so vital for the young lads.
It went from sell him to Saudi Arabia to give him the armband in 90 minutes.
The turnaround is amazing.
And speaking of young lads, we have to talk about the partner in crime, the lost time of Kabi Manu.
This is a sore spot for the fan base regarding the previous manager.
It really validates the fan frustration. Under Amorim, Manu was basically a ghost. Sidelined.
Worse than sidelined. There were leaks suggesting he wasn't tactically disciplined enough.
Which is just mad.
There were even rumors of a loan move in January. Can you imagine loaning out your generational talent, the kid who scored in the FA Cup final?
The fans would have burned the stadium down.
Well, Carrick put him straight back in. And Manu looked fresh. He looked hungry. But tactically, this is interesting. He formed a pivot with Casemiro. But he wasn't just sitting.
No.
He acts as a connector.
Define that for us. What is a connector in this system?
So you have Casemiro destroying attacks. You have Bruno creating them up top. Manu's the bridge. He takes the ball from the defenders under pressure, spins away, which is his superpower, and drives the ball to Bruno.
He knits the whole team together.
He links the back to the front. He's so important.
And the sources suggest the Amorim was holding him back narrative is now the dominant truth?
Completely. It raises serious questions about talent identification under the previous regime. How can you watch Kabi Manu in training and think, I can't use this player?
It baffles the mind.
It makes people question if Amorim was overthinking it, trying to be too clever.
Precisely. Now, we have been very United-focused, naturally, because they won.
Of course.
But we have to look at the blue corner, because as good as United were, the reaction from the City camp is, well, apocalyptic is the word.
It is a full-blown meltdown. I spent some time on RMCFC, and the mood is dark.
We mentioned Pep was gracious, admitting the better team won. But the fans, not so much.
No. They are furious. And what's interesting is the target of their anger. It's not just the players. There are genuine threads claiming Pep has lost the plot.
Lost the plot. The man who won the treble. The man who has dominated English football for a decade. Football fans are fickle, aren't they?
Incredibly fickle. But there are legitimate grievances here. City are in the midst of an injury crisis. Ruben Dias, Xardiol, John Stones, Rodri.
Yeah.
They were all mentioned as missing or not fully fit.
So the squad is thin.
It is. But the fans aren't accepting that as an excuse for the manner of the defeat.
They used the word spineless, didn't they?
Spineless, hiding, toothless.
Yeah.
The stat that they had 0 shots on target for the vast majority of the game is being used as a stick to beat the team with.
Right.
It wasn't just losing, it was the lack of fight in a derby.
That's the thing about derbies. You can lose, but you have to kick someone. You have to show you care. You can't just stroll around.
Exactly. And specific players were getting it in the neck. Rico Lewis and Matthias Nunes came in for heavy criticism. Fans felt they were simply not up to the physical standard required for a game of this magnitude.
They were bullied by Manu and Casemiro.
Completely.
Yeah.
It is rare to see a City team outworked.
Outplayed, maybe, occasionally. But outworked, that is alarming for them.
It is. And for City fans, looking at their rivals, who have been a banner club for months, let's be honest, suddenly looking more cohesive and hungry than them.
Yeah.
That hurts more than the 3 points.
Yeah.
It stings.
So bringing it all together, we have the Carrick masterclass, the City meltdown, the redemption arcs. Now we have to ask the big question about the future. Is Michael Carrick the one?
This is the dilemma the fan base is grappling with right now. You can see the split in the threads. Half of them are euphoric, posting memes saying, give him the contract immediately. Signed a ting.
Right. They see the connection, the style, the results.
And the other half,
The other half are suffering from PTSD.
They remember the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer era too vividly. Remember,
Oh,
Ole came in as interim, won a load of games, including that famous night in Paris, got the permanent job, and then
well, the wheels fell off.
he fell off.
The false dawn. The sugar rush wears off and you realize you haven't eaten a proper meal in weeks.
Exactly. The argument from the skeptics is this. Beating City at Old Trafford when the crowd is up for it, and you can play on the counterattack with space to run into. That is one thing.
That suits United's players.
It does. They love space.
Yeah.
But can you break down a low block away at Fulham or Brentford?
Just to clarify, low block for everyone. That's when the other team basically puts all 10 players in their own penalty box and dares you to score, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's tough. You need intricate passing patterns. You need patience. We don't know if Carrick can coach that yet. We haven't seen it. That is the real test.
It's easy to look good when there is space. It's much harder when there are 10 men behind the ball on a rainy Tuesday and you have to craft a goal out of nothing.
Precisely. But Carrick has immediately put himself in pole position. He carries that United man status.
And seeing the ownership reaction Sir Jim Ratcliffe was spotted celebrating in the stands suggests a hierarchy is paying close attention.
It must be a relief for the owners, too. They made the big call to sack Amorim. If they had lost this game 3-0, the pressure on Jason Wilcox and the technical team would have been immense.
Questions about why did you sack him would have been everywhere.
Huge validation. They decided to trust the old boys, Carrick, Darren Fletcher, to steady the ship, and it has paid off instantly.
Speaking of old boys, we touched on this earlier with the pundit wars, but there is a fascinating tension there. You have the fans loving the legend in the dugout, Carrick, but loathing the legends in the studio. Neville, Scholes, but
It is a really nuanced dynamic. It feels like a civil war among the legends.
there is a feeling that the class of '92 pundits have become clickbait merchants, that they're more interested in generating headlines for Sky Sports than actually supporting the club.
The Martinez comments were the tipping point.
I think so, too.
Fans feel like if you are a legend, support the players. Don't mock them. Don't give the opposition dressing room ammunition.
It shows that legend status isn't a free pass anymore. You have to earn the respect of the modern fan. You can't just rest on your medals.
Spot on. The fan base is protective of this current squad now, especially after a performance like that.
So what a weekend for Manchester United. A 2-0 win that could have been 5-0, a tactical masterclass, a silenced Erling Haaland. It doesn't get much better.
It really doesn't. But, and I have to be the voice of reason here, much as I hate
I
it,
knew you were going to do this. Go on, ruin the party. Be the wet blanket.
I have to. We have seen this movie before. The new manager bounce is a real statistical phenomenon. The energy levels naturally drop after a few weeks.
Sure.
The tactical simplicity works now because it's fresh and the players are liberated. But once teams figure out Carrick's 4-2-3-1, does he have a plan B?
That is the provocative thought to leave you with. Was the problem really Amorim's complex system, or are we just seeing the temporary relief of a squad that got its way?
The Fulham game next week might actually tell us more about Michael Carrick's managerial future than this Derby win ever could. If he wins there, ugly, 1-0.
Then we can start talking.
Then we can start talking about contracts.
Indeed. But for now, let the fans enjoy the bragging rights. Manchester is red. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Thanks, everyone.
We will be watching that Fulham game very closely. Until next time, take care.